Watch a mainstream comedy on Netflix today, and a character might unload an entire cosmology of paranoid theories in under a minute. The writers assume the audience already knows the vocabulary, because conspiracy literacy has become ordinary literacy. Take the birth bond or straw man theory. It posits that at birth, the government creates a corporate double, represented by your name in all capital letters, and collateralizes your future labor to pay off the national debt. The narrative connects massive financial architectures, pointing to the Federal Reserve and international banking systems as the secret holders of these human-backed accounts. Instead of dismissing the millions who hold this belief, we should examine the architecture they were actually sensing. A man convinced the state models populations as assets and liabilities isn't hallucinating a structure, he is compressing one. Folk cognition solves the problem of understanding a massive distributed architecture by running a lossy compression algorithm. It collapses an incomprehensible system into a physical object you can imagine sitting in a room. Perceiving the real structure requires mastering commercial law, actuarial science, and human capital economics. That knowledge is distributed across institutions that rarely talk to one another. The secret bond narrative outcompeted the technical reality because it is portable. A man can carry it in his pocket and hand it to a stranger in 4 sentences. Digging into the artifacts of this compression reveals that the conspiracy researchers were pattern-matching load-bearing observations of a real structure. The theorists identified a genuine material overlap. Historical birth certificates and high-value financial securities were produced by the same high-security engravers. These shared printing technologies solve a mutual authentication problem. Currency, passports, and certificates all use banknote-style anti-counterfeiting to resist forgery, regardless of their asset class. They also discovered that Black's Law Dictionary defines a person to include corporations, trusts, and estates. Law reveals that personhood is a functional category used to allocate rights, capacities, and liabilities. A corporation can operate as a person without possessing lungs. They correctly noted that global markets require interoperable, durable identifiers, like CUSIP numbers, to track objects across systems. These researchers accurately identified layered personhood, shared physical substrates, and the need for market identifiers. They simply attached these valid concerns to the wrong instruments. While human beings remain non-alienable, the economic consequences of human existence are extensively financialized. Development institutions openly measure how much human capital a child born today can accumulate through working age. They track how investments in health and education translate into future productivity. Mortgage-backed securities and longevity swaps function on these principles. They trade positions based on how populations are likely to live, move, and work. The investor doesn't own the person, they own an interest in the statistical distributions of human life. A birth registration today creates an identity root. Through decentralized identifier architecture, it establishes an origin point from which every later medical record, financial history, and verifiable credential lawfully descends. Modern governance depends on simulating reachable population futures to dictate the allocation of present-day resources. For decades, the sovereign's complaint had a structural weakness. The representation he objected to was inert. A name in capital letters on a paper docket cannot act. That representation is now acquiring agency. Delegated digital agents can already negotiate, transact, and commit on behalf of a human being. The double acts. This creates an immediate legal crisis. We are now forced to determine who bears liability when a digital double commits wrongly, and how a human can revoke authority that is moving at machine speed. The old description of the straw man, an entity bearing your name that transacts without your specific consent and incurs obligations that bind you, has become a technical specification for the delegated agents of 2030. If these digital twins are left unchecked, early developmental forecasts could become permanent caste markers. A system that predicts a person's decline may withdraw the very investments needed to prevent it. Predictive modeling remains essential for society to move resources upstream of failure. We use these models to identify which interventions allow a child born now to reach a better future. We require a new constitutional principle, authorial primacy. This is the absolute right of the living human source to inspect, overrule, and instantly revoke any digital representation claiming to act in their name. The actual bond of our era connects our living present to our reachable digital futures, and we are now deciding who holds the primacy over the instrument that carries it forward.